Hey friends, welcome to Growing with Creekside. Today is a beautiful, wonderful, crisp November morning, and we are going to be planting some more shrubs. Yes, where are we? The berm. That's right, you guessed it. We are going to be planting 2 brand new azaleas in the berm. So excited about that because, you know, as a North Carolina girl, I gotta have my azaleas in my landscape. So we're gonna add 2 brand new ones to the landscape here in the berm. We're going to add some gorgeous loropetalums. Loropetalums are another shrub that is iconic with the South. Fantastic evergreen shrub that comes in all sizes. Some are little, some are huge. These are going to be a nice medium-sized one. And then we're going to be adding a smokebush, my very first smokebush. I have high hopes for this beauty. So hopefully she will do well here in North Carolina. So we're going to run down really quickly. I'm going to show you the areas that the plants are going to go. I've just placed them in the areas. I have not done the exact spacing and the placement of them. So I'm going to show them to you, explain the plants, explain the shrubs. These will, everything but the smokebush is going to be an evergreen. So that's going to be really nice, give me year-round structure in the berm. So let me just show them to you and then explain the shrubs and why we chose them and what they're going to do for us. Here we are, we're kind of up towards the top of the berm. You will see that I have the first set. We're on the house side of the berm right now, and you can see we have the denim and lace, the stellar ruby magnolia, the first Yoshino, bless her, I think she has less than 10 leaves on that tree. And then underneath I have got 6 of the proven winners. This is the Perfecto Mundo Epic Pink. So the Epic series is going to be a new one. We have Epic Pink here, and then we're going to be planting coral. The Epic series is going to be really nice because they're going to have bigger blooms. Perfecto Mundo is already a series with proven winners, but the Epic series is just going to be bigger. Of course, you can see we've got some. We had a freeze last night. Let's see. You can see that some of the flowers have been fried a little bit. There's just a little bit of the color. Now this is November, so don't judge it by what you see right there. But azaleas, of course, are a great evergreen for us. They will be, I want to say, oh, Brenna's super excited because the ladies are moving plants down to the down to the greenhouse. All right, so let me get the specs for you right quick. Y'all, it's just a circus around here. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you. It's, you know, all hands on deck. You never know what's going to happen around here, so we just go with the flow, right? Okay. So let me give you the rundown. Give me the lowdown here on the Epic series. They are going to be sun to part shade. So that means with azaleas, because these are reblooming azaleas, they're going to bloom 3 times a year. Really great in the spring. You can trim them back a little bit, encourage new growth. They'll bloom in the summer, and then they bloom again in the fall. That's why we have some blooms on them now. So 3 times a year, they have to have that sun in order to get the energy to produce the flowers. So an absolute minimum of 5 hours of direct sun. So 5 hours or more direct sun. Hardy in zones 6 to 9, so maybe a little bit more cold hardy than some other azaleas. They are going to be 3 to 4 tall, but 3 to 5 wide. So, and that's going to be the same specs on both the Epic Pink and the Epic Coral. Now, what we're going to do, if you remember last week, just on the other side, let me pivot here ever so slightly so you don't get seasick. Right on the other side of the berm, right here, you might be able to see the little sticks. That is where we planted the little lime punches and the butterfly bushes. Remember that I planted the little limes in straight diagonal lines coming off each side of the thundercloud purple plum? Well, that is what we are going to do. We're going to mimic that same shape coming off of the Yoshinos. So on this side, we're going to have a diagonal line coming here and a diagonal line coming there of the Epic Pink. And then we're going to move on down the other end where that Yoshino is, right down there. And let me go show you those Epic Corals, and we're going to do the same thing. Here we are on the other end of the berm, the downside of the berm, with that other Yoshino, and we have the epic coral. So my thought is that we have, you know, kind of roughly a line here and a line here, and then in the center I get to frame it out with whatever, or fill it in rather, with whatever I want, very much like the plum. So even though we have different plants, this is kind of a little bit of a design technique that I hope it's going to work. So we'll have the same shape with the shrubs in the diagonal lines coming off of Yoshino, the purple plum, and the Yoshino. This will probably show up the most when we do the drone shots, but it'll be kind of that same repeating pattern where it is framing the flowering trees. Let me show you the epic coral, and you may notice that the epic coral, the plants themselves right now are a little bit larger. That's just probably the age of the plant. It's not, because they do have the exact same dimensions on them. These are just a little bit bigger, probably a little bit older, and so I went ahead and chose to put the bigger plants down on the lower end of the berm, because this berm is very much on a slope. I am holding the camera level, and you can see by the fence that we're very much on a slope. So I want to put my bigger plants right now perhaps more on the downside of the berm. It gives it weight. Somebody asked in a comment about the North Poles, having that North Pole group down here, and would it make the bed look unbalanced? Well, the reason I put the North Poles here is to make the bed balanced, because this is my lowest point and these are going to be my tallest trees. So that way when you're looking, because of the elevation of the land, this end is really high, right? So that's why I put the Thunderhead pine way up there at the top, because it's low and wide. And then as we come down, you will see that we'll have both the North Poles that are nice and tall and the golden Oakland holly that will really weigh down this corner and give this whole bed some heft to it. So the azaleas are going to go on this side. Now let's flip around and let me show you where the loropetalums and the smokebush are going to go. Okay, so here I am on just the flip side. I'm right here at like the service gate entrance, and of course I'm dealing with the sun, right? Because it is a beautiful day. It's cool, but the sun is out, and so we're dealing with some sun and some shadows. So hopefully I'm gonna get this good for you. So again, I have an overall idea on this bed that I want to share with you. And Jerry and I were talking, and I think maybe you and I talked about it before. Essentially, we have this berm, right, is one massive bed, of course. So it's like one massive garden. However, I also kind of have two separate gardens. I have one on the house side of the berm, and then I have one on the nursery side of the berm. And I want the both sides and the whole bed to flow together but complement each other. That is why I put the golden Oakland right here, so I can have my North Poles as a beautiful dark green backdrop. That will make the golden holly really pop out more, right? Same thing with the camellias and the pufferfish. They're going to have these nice evergreens as a backdrop. So on this side of the berm, I want to have some loropetalums, and what we're going to use is the Jazz Hands Bold loropetalums. These are going to be a nice medium size. I want to say, I'll have the specs up there for you. I'll probably get it wrong in my head, but it's going to be like that 4 to 6 feet tall, or 5 to 6 feet. It's like in that 4 to 6 tall and wide range, right? Jazz Hands Bold loropetalum, they are great evergreen shrubs. The bold has massive leaves on it. Can you see like how fat that leaf is right there? If you know loropetalums, they are a southern plant, but if you know them, a lot of times their leaves are a lot skinnier. The bold is bigger and it's really, really dark. It's almost like a black, right? So my vision for these is that they are going, I only have 3 because mature size, I only need 3. We're going to fit them somewhere beginning, tucking in with the North Poles and kind of working around there. figure out the exact placement in a little bit. And then the smokebush right here that is almost lost all of its leaves is going to go in the center of it. And this is the Winecraft Gold. It is a deciduous shrub. You can see, like I said, it is losing a lot of its leaves right now, so it's a lot of sticks. We have to have a big vision, y'all. And this sweet thing is going to be gorgeous. Beautiful chartreuse lime green foliage. So just imagine it with me. Just close, well, maybe kind of close your eyes. We're gonna have the loropetalums right here in the back, nice black evergreen. Then right here in the center is gonna be that Winecraft Gold, beautiful chartreuse color, gorgeous white plumes in the spring that turn to pink, big, huge statement piece. Then I can come back here in the front and fill in with perennials and keep on going down with some more perennials down in front of the North Poles. Love that idea. Now, the loropetalums here are going to give me a beautiful backdrop to the other side of the fence. So that's what I say when I'm using both sides of the fence to complement each other. Now, because I want this bed to look balanced and not very hodgy-podgy, so we have the North Poles, we'll have the loropetalums, and then as we move up, of course, we've got the purple plum with all the hydrangeas and the butterfly bushes. And then we're going to repeat those same loropetalums up here. Now, those loropetalums, I've got 3 again, and they are going to be perfectly balanced and spaced in the berm because right in front of me is the purple plum. And you will see that hopefully the loropetalums are the same distance. I use the panels to help me kind of measure and space things out. So the loropetalums on this end are the same distance away from that purple plum that those are down there. I do not know what I'm going to put in front of the loropetalums here. I will figure that out later, but at least that gives me some nice balance. So that's just something to think about when you're planning your landscape, especially like when it's a big area like this or the front of your house. You want something that repeats, something that ties the whole bed together, right? So I have an evergreen pine at the top, then I have my evergreen arborvitaes down here at the bottom. I have the plum that's in the center, then I'll have the exact same loropetalums on each side of that, both beside those evergreens, so it brings balance and cohesiveness to the bed without being too matchy-matchy. So that is my plan. Hopefully that plan will come together come spring, summer, and in the coming years and look as pretty in reality as it does in my brain. So what I'm gonna do now is actually get everything spaced out, and then we will get them in the ground. I think we're gonna start with the azaleas. Those will be the easiest ones. So we're gonna hop on the other side and get those azaleas planted. Alrighty, I have got all 12 azaleas placed, and Brenna is very excited about the whole thing. So let me flip the camera around. Let me show you exactly where they are placed. Nice and spread out. I think you can see probably those white cans. Really takes up a lot of room spread out because they're going to be 5 feet wide. At this spacing, they are just going to kiss each other, as I say. So I'm planting for maturity, thinking long term, because if azaleas are happy, they're really going to be a long-lived shrub, which is wonderful. So by framing in my cherry trees like this, I have a massive amount of room here in the center that I can fill in with other shrubs if I want to, or it can be perennials, lots and lots of options. And then coming down, of course, the bed does get more narrow as you come down this end. So I had to scooch them just a little bit closer together, but you can see there are those nice lines with one another. And on the Yoshino on this end, they are framing it quite nicely. So we have got 3 on each diagonal for a total of 12. Now what I'm going to do is, of course, come back over here at the John Deere, and I have got my power planter auger with the bigger heavy duty auger on it. I will drill my holes, and I've got my Espoma biotone. Plants love this. Every hole will get a little sprinkle, and we will get them in the ground. Alrighty, my friends, so we have got the 12 azaleas in the ground. They are nice and placed. They are happy. They have their biotone. I'm not going to water today. It's kind of the same thing I've told you before when we were in here earlier a couple of days ago. It is November in North Carolina. The temperatures are a lot cooler, even though this is in a full sun location. November sun and like July sun, as you know, are completely different. So there is not the heat stress on the plants. Plus, we just got massive amounts of rain in the last couple of days, and we're supposed to get more rain tomorrow. That is why we plant so much in the fall here in the south, because cool temperatures, definitely more consistent rain. So that way I can essentially plant these and forget these, because they're getting regular water. If I had planted these in July, which I could have, then I would have to be out here every day, twice a day, checking on them to make sure that they have good water. So what's going to happen this winter is they're going to get some good root growth, which is what I want. We want them to get nice and strong, established with their roots in the ground. This bed does have irrigation. It is not completely hooked up yet as far as like the water works, but we don't have the drip laid within the bed. We're going to do that once we get the main bones in the bed. But I'm not going to have to worry about getting this watered until come, like late spring. Until then, they will be just fine. Azaleas do well with irrigation because they like that to have that consistent water. Maintenance on them, the bloomathons, they bloom on old and new growth. So if I were to prune them now, I'm going to be cutting off my spring blooms. So I do not want to do that. They do bloom 3 times, spring, summer, and fall. They say on the Proven Winners website, they do really well like after your spring flush, just to give them a light trim, or if you need to trim them up, right, if they're like mature size and you need to bring them back some, that would be the time to do it, because they will have time to regrow and put on fresh flowers come the fall. You may forfeit your summer blooms just depending on when you actually cut it, but you should get your fall blooms. They are evergreen. I'm trying to go through my checklist of the things that I want to make sure that you know. Azaleas do love acidic soil, so they do really well with the holly-tone fertilizer. That fertilizer is great for obviously hollies, azaleas, camellias, your evergreens, those kinds of plants, acid-loving plants. So come spring, when winter is ending and I am entering into spring, I will give them a nice healthy dose of holly-tone. The biotone is enough fertilizer for now. I do not need to add any more. So what we're going to do is we're going to move up to the other side of the berm and then get the loropetalums and the smokebush planted. Jerry was going back and forth doing some errands, and I had him stop and we talked about the placement of the loropetalums because I want to make sure that he likes the idea of where I have them. He gave me his thumbs up, so we're going to move on over there and get them in the ground as well. All right, my friends, so here we are on the other side of the berm. Let me show you how I have those loropetalums placed. Here on the North Pole side, I have them in a little bit of a semicircle kind of position. If I move around, maybe you can see that a little bit better. They are spaced out, so again, once they are mature size, they should kiss each other. I say that when their limbs will just begin to touch each other, not up in all each other's business. Dating, not married, as one of my people said, which I thought was hilarious. But that way, it still gives me plenty of room if I want to put, say, I don't know, a tall grass there. I'm thinking more like the climbing honeysuckle from Proven Winners, the Sensation, I believe is honeysuckle, so we could go there, or if I wanted to put one here, and then that opens up, right? So that's the open area back here, and then I have a nice pocket before we get into the little lime punches. The loropetalums, they respond beautifully to being pruned. So if you have loropetalums and they are too big or they're too like spindly and too leggy, honey, whack them, just cut them back. They will, it is hard to over prune a loropetalum once it's established. Man, those suckers, the ones that we have that used to be in the front of our house that are now, we moved them, and they're literally like, 12, 15 feet tall. Jerry at one point took a chainsaw to them and took them down to nubs. It was like, they were like, woohoo, thank you so much. So we can easily keep these guys trimmed to that 5 foot tall and wide. It's not a big deal. The best time to do it, of course, is coming out of winter, spring, after they have bloomed, because they will do beautiful hot pink flowers. And then there, right there in the center, is the Winecraft Gold. It's pretty simple. I would say not basic, just kind of simple right here. So just imagine massive wall of dark purple, almost black foliage with a chartreuse lime green, taller than it is wide. Fantastic. And then we're gonna hike it up the hill here and go to see the next set of loropetalums. So not only do we have loropetalums with the burgundy foliage, but we also have the purple plum, because the purple plum has that beautiful burgundy foliage as well. So those three colors, those three plants with the same color rather, are going to tie in this bed, make it cohesive, and do really well. You can see here I have the 3 loropetalums back up here. Now, they're basically in a straight line. They are not in a curve. This part of the flower bed lends itself to that. It's a little bit more of a, the shape is this kind of the straight edge of the flower bed. So we start to kind of curve out back here where the denim and lace is in front of the thunderhead. But where the loropetalums are, it's kind of a straight shot. I don't know what I'm going to put in front of them. That doesn't really matter. I've got plenty of options, so I just space them evenly throughout there. So we will get them planted. Now, remember, I said these can get like 5 to 6 tall and wide. We will keep them to be about that 5 foot range. I am, on a good day, I am 5'3". So imagine that these loropetalums will be as tall as I am, which is essentially as tall as the top rail, around that edge. Like that's on the low end of the 5 feet. So just imagine that kind of presence here. I don't need to have a wall of solid evergreen trees. I can do that with my shrubs that give me lots that kind of fills in, give me the bones of the flower bed without having just the same plant all the way down. Does that make sense? Because I could have taken those North Poles and just run a gazillion North Poles down there. But what's the fun in that? We like to have color and texture and lots of different interests, and there's too many plants out there just to stick with one. So we're going to try a bunch, and it is going to be gorgeous. Loropetalums, here in our experience, are pretty fast growers. So that is a good thing that these will grow pretty quickly. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to dig our holes, use our biotone, plop them in the ground, and then this project will be done for the day. Alrighty, my friends, so we have got 19 new shrubs in the berm, just like that. Yeah, it's been a great morning. We have gotten lots of good stuff done. I'm a little hungry. You know, if you ever get a little, you're out there in the garden, you're like, oh, I can just pop these in the ground real quick. Yeah, then my stomach starts growling. And anyway, so I digress. I do apologize for my hunger's getting the best of me. But all 19 shrubs are in the ground. So we've got 6 of each of the Perfecto Mundo epic azaleas, both 6 of the pink and 6 of the coral. Then we got a total of 6 jazz hands bold loropetalum, going to be stunning with their dark foliage. And then of course that Winecraft Gold smokebush. Cannot wait to see all these grow and develop. It is so nice to see some bones getting into this garden, even though we are in November, mid-November here, and things are starting to go dormant, or they're, you know, not as thick and as lush, or not nearly as full grown as they're going to be. But it just feels nice to get some things in the ground. That way, the sooner they can get in the ground, their roots can get established, and they will be very happy plants that come next growing season and beyond. So if you're in the southeast, or definitely the south, because I have people that are asking me, you know, is it too late to begin, you know, to keep planting? No, not at all. Here in the south, like, our ground does not freeze. We get cold temperatures, of course, and it's cold, but it could be, you know, lows in the teens for maybe a night or 2 nights, and then, you know, 5 days later it could be 80 degrees. It's the craziest thing. So our ground really never freezes here in the south where I am in North Carolina. So I can basically plant year round. They will handle it. Now, are there better times to plant certain, you know, plants? Of course, but as a general rule, it is a great time to plant because it's cooler temperatures, more consistent rain, it's easier on us, and it's easier on the plants. So don't be afraid to get out there and put some plants in the ground. If you have questions, just go visit your local garden center. They are going to be the experts in your area, and they can help you and assist you. But I'm so excited to have these guys in the ground. They're going to do great. And as always, thanks so much for growing with Creekside. I'm going to get some lunch, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye, friends.